Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take what you need to know, really distill that wisdom, and make it stick.
Absolutely.
Today, we're getting into something that looks, well, deceptively simple on the surface. But it's a piece of literature that's actually been credited with really changing careers, marriages, people's lives.
Yeah.
We're talking about Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable, isn't it? It's this little fable, 4 characters, a maze, but the ripple effect, huge. It really became this sort of corporate touchstone.
A phenomenon, yeah.
Because suddenly companies were grappling with just relentless change, disruption everywhere. And this book, it gave them a language.
A common language.
Exactly. You look back and you see leaders at places like Eastman Kodak, Whirlpool, Xerox.
Yeah.
They were all pointing to this story, saying this is how they communicated during these massive, massive shifts.
And I think universality is key, right? It cuts through all the complex change management jargon.
Cool.
And it gives everyone, from the top floor down to the front lines, a way to talk about disruption that they instantly get. It's really a tool for success, designed to dial down that internal stress, that resistance we all feel.
That's it. So our mission today really is to unpack this whole thing. We're aiming for, a full discussion, getting into all the important ideas from the book.
Right.
We're going to dig into those core metaphors, the cheese, the maze, and we'll look closely at the paths those 4 characters take. They're very different paths.
Very different.
And the goal is to pull out those practical lessons from Ha's journey. It was tough, but he got there, and give you a clear roadmap, something you can actually use to manage change in your own life, your own work. Less stress, more success.
Okay, so let's start right there, at the foundation. You can't really get the story unless you get what the cheese and the maze stand for. And crucially, they mean different things to different people.
That's the first thing to grasp, yeah.
So what exactly is the cheese? Capital C.
Right, capital C. Well, the cheese is basically whatever it is you want in life, your goal, the thing you're striving for.
The reward.
The reward, exactly. And Dr. Johnson, he really stresses that this is broad. I mean, sure, it can be the obvious stuff, a job, money, a nice house, that kind of thing.
Tangible things.
Yeah, tangible. But just as often, maybe even more often, the cheese is abstract.
Okay, like what? Like getting recognized for what you do.
That's a big one. Or achieving good health.
Yeah.
Maintaining a really strong relationship. Or maybe it's just finding some kind of inner peace, spiritual peace maybe.
Or even, like the book says, simple things. Like being able to go for a jog every day. That could be your cheese.
Absolutely. It could be having a routine you rely on, the status that comes with a certain job title, anything really. The point is, your cheese is what you believe is going to make you happy and successful.
And that belief, that's where the danger comes in, isn't it?
That's exactly where the risk lies. Because once you find that cheese, whatever it is for you, you get attached deeply, emotionally. So when it suddenly disappears, or even just starts to dwindle, it's not just an inconvenience. It feels like a fundamental threat to your identity, your security, everything.
And that hits the core theme, right?
Right.
Change is inevitable. It's always happening. But we get so attached, we become psychologically kind of rigid.
We do. We confuse the reward, the cheese, with the place we found it, like this specific spot in the maze. And we start assuming it's permanent when nothing really is.
Okay, so if the cheese is what we want, the maze is where we look for it, the system we have to navigate.
Exactly. The maze is your environment, where you operate. And this is where the story really broadens out, For someone working, the maze is their company, maybe their whole industry.
Right.
For a parent, it could be the school system or the community they live in. For someone retired, maybe it's their network of relationships or dealing with health changes. It's the whole labyrinth you're trying to get through to find what you need.
The story's power isn't just theoretical, though. It comes from real people who were seriously stuck. I would think of that Charlie Jones anecdote, the NBC sportscaster.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. Such a great illustration.
Because it shows how we take external change so personally, like it's an attack.
It's textbook, isn't it? He had his cheese covering track and field, premier events. He was good at it, comfortable.
Sure.
Totally secure. Then boom, the boss moves his cheese, tells him he's now covering swimming and diving, stuff he barely knew. He felt completely blindsided. Betrayed, even.
And he admitted his first reaction was pure hem, just angry, feeling unappreciated, pushing back. His work started slipping because all his energy was going into fighting the change, not adapting to it.
He saw it as a demotion, a punishment, not just a shift in organizational needs.
Right, but then someone told him the "who moved my cheese" story.
And it just clicked, that cognitive shift. You realize, okay, wait, my boss didn't attack me. The organization just moved the cheese.
It let him bypass all that anger and denial.
Exactly. It reframed the whole thing. So he metaphorically put his running shoes back on, changed his attitude, learned the new sports, and actually found that the challenge itself was invigorating.
And he ended up being even more successful.
Yeah. His adaptability paid off big time. The story gave him a way to see it not as being a victim, but as having agency, taking control back.
And that need for agency, that flexibility, that's exactly what Ken Blanchard talks about in the foreword, isn't it?
Right at the start, yeah. He says companies today, they don't just want loyalty to how things used to be. They need flexible people. People who aren't, as he puts it, possessive about the way things are done around here.
Blanchard calls it constant whitewater.
Yeah.
That's such a good image.
It really is. It implies turbulence is the norm now, not the exception. So if a company's constantly shifting strategy, adopting new tech, responding to the market, and the employees are digging in their heels every time.
The whole thing just grinds to a halt.
Exactly. The story works because it helps release that negative energy, that inertia. Once you can kind of laugh at your own hem behavior, the clinging, the complaining, the it's not fair stuff, you're freed up to choose a different path, Ha's path, or even better, maybe the mice's path. It turns that friction into self-awareness, into adaptation.
Okay, let's get into the story itself then. The four characters, they really are these universal types, aren't they? How we all react to change sometimes. Two mice, Sniff and Scurry, and two little people, Ham and Ha.
That's right. And the mice, Sniff and Scurry, they're like our baseline. Instinctive, efficient, how nature handles change almost.
Okay.
Sniff, he's got the sharp nose. He represents, instinct, foresight, noticing the small changes early on.
No trouble coming.
Pretty much. And Scurry is all about speed, action. Once a change is clear, he just goes, no hesitation.
They're simple. Trial and error. They don't overthink it.
Exactly. No complex beliefs holding them back. If the food's gone, move, find new food. It's survival.
Contrast that with the little people, Hem and Ha. They look like us, act like us.
And they have our complex brains, which, as the story shows, can be a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, their brains are full of many beliefs, emotions, the ability to learn, to remember the past, project into the future, all that sophisticated stuff.
Sound good.
It can be. But it often leads to overthinking, emotional baggage, getting stuck in analysis paralysis.
Okay, but at first, everyone finds Cheese Station C. This huge stash, everyone's happy.
Right. This is that moment of arrival, the comfort zone. You found the great job, the stable relationship, whatever your cheese is. Life is good.
And this is where things start to diverge, right? This is the crucial part.
This is the cautionary tale. Because look at the mice, Sniff and Scurry. They find Station C, but they never let their guard down.
What do?
They keep their routine, wake up early, race through the maze, even though they know where the cheese is. Now they inspect the station every day, looking for changes. And critically,
The running shoes.
the running shoes, they keep them tied around their necks, always ready.
That's such a powerful image. It means they're never fully settled. They're enjoying the cheese, sure, but they know deep down it might not last. They're ready to bolt if necessary.
Mentally and physically prepared for displacement. Now compare that to Hem and Ha.
Oh boy, here we go.
They completely lose it. The vigilance, I mean. They stop being explorers and become settlers.
Comfortable.
Too comfortable. They start waking up later, dressing slower. Instead of running, they just kind of stroll over to Station C.
And the running shoes?
Gone. Replaced with slippers. Soft, comfy slippers. They even move their homes closer, build their whole social life around Station C. They basically embed themselves in the comfort zone.
They stopped smelling the cheese, didn't they?
Completely. They took it for granted, and the book says their confidence. It grew into arrogance.
That's a key shift. It wasn't just comfort, it was entitlement.
Exactly. Hem actually says it. We deserve this cheese. We certainly had to work long and hard enough to find it.
Oof. That deserve word. That's the trap.
It's the most dangerous psychological trap. That's the human element the mice don't have. Our complex brains invent this idea that effort guarantees a permanent reward.
Right, like, I put in the work, so this should last forever.
And when reality doesn't match that expectation, our first reaction isn't usually adaptation. It's often anger, demanding things go back to how they were, blaming someone.
You know, it makes you wonder, don't our organizations, our society, sometimes teach us to be Hem and Ha?
That's a really insightful point. How so?
Well, if companies always reward seniority over adaptability, or if tenure is seen as the ultimate goal, aren't we basically trained to think loyalty to one spot should shield us from change?
Yeah, the maze itself can definitely reinforce hem-like behavior. If you spent 20 years mastering one specific skill or working for one company, the idea that all that investment could suddenly be worth less, it's terrifying.
So the entitlement becomes a defense mechanism.
It's a shield against that pain, absolutely. And because their focus shifted inward onto their own feelings of deservingness, their past efforts, they completely stopped noticing the external reality, the cheese supply itself.
And because they weren't watching, that rigidity just sets them up for the inevitable crisis. One morning, poof, the cheese is gone.
Just empty.
Yeah.
Sniff and scurry get there first. Look around. No cheese.
But crucially, they weren't shocked.
Not really. They'd notice it dwindling, getting old, maybe a bit stale. Instinctively, they were prepared.
So what's their reaction?
Immediate. Efficient. No hand-wringing, no meetings. They don't waste time analyzing why it's gone or whose fault it is.
It is right.
Grab the running shoes, lace them up, and they're gone. Back into the maze, looking for new cheese. It's like, boom. Problem, action, solution seeking. A model of crisis response.
Okay, now contrast that with him and Ha arriving.
The difference is stark. Their shock level just reveals how deep the complacency went. They hadn't seen the little signs at all.
So him, he just explodes, right?
Pure, unfiltered ego defense. He's yelling, "What? No cheese? Who moved my cheese?" He's furious, red in the face, screaming, "It's not fair."
Looking for someone else to blame?
Completely. Why did they do this to me? It's all externalized. Some invisible enemy is responsible, not the natural process of change.
And Ha, what's his initial reaction?
He's more is immobilized, frozen, just shaking his head in disbelief. Remember, he'd built his whole future around this cheese station C, all his plans.
Lifestyle, goals.
Everything. And the sudden realization that he was totally unprepared, it just paralyzes him. So they stand there, arguing, getting nowhere.
Well, the mice are already out there, exploring new corridors.
Miles away, probably. And that pause, that time Hem and Ha spend arguing about fairness and blame, that's where the real opportunity slips away.
They're busy, but not productive.
Exactly. Lots of activity, shouting, analyzing, complaining, but zero actual progress towards finding new cheese.
But before they leave that first awful night, Ha does manage one moment of clarity. He writes the first message on the wall for him.
Yeah, despite the shock, a little bit of insight breaks through. And this first lesson, it cuts right to the bone of why they're stuck.
What does it say?
It says, the more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it.
So it connects the value of the cheese directly to the strength of the resistance.
Precisely. It's not just about needing the cheese to survive. It's about the emotional weight, the ego investment.
So if your job is like your whole identity, losing it feels way worse than just losing an income.
Absolutely. If your relationship defines your entire social world, ending it feels like you have to rebuild everything from scratch. The perceived importance of the cheese dictates how deep the denial goes, how hard you'll fight to cling on.
And that denial plays out immediately in their argument, doesn't it? Hem doubles down on the entitlement.
Totally. We're entitled to this. We didn't do anything wrong. He sees himself as a victim, just waiting for someone to fix it, to bring the cheese back.
But Ha starts to see how pointless that is. He tries to nudge them forward.
Yeah, Ha's starting to feel the hunger, the weakness, and he sees the absurdity. He suggests, maybe they should stop analyzing and just get going and find some new cheese.
The first step towards action. But Hem pushes back hard.
Because of fear. Deep, paralyzing fear of the unknown. What if we get lost? What if there is no new cheese out there? What if we look like fools trying?
The misery they know feels safer than the uncertainty of the search.
Exactly. That known discomfort of the empty station feels less threatening than the vast, dark, unknown maze. And that internal conflict, Hem's ego and fear, versus Ha's dawning survival instinct, that's what keeps them trapped there initially.
And they stay trapped for quite a while, don't they? Trying everything but the obvious solution, which is leaving.
Yeah, that stagnation period is really important. They keep going back to the empty station C, and they try to solve the problem using old methods.
Like bringing tools.
Right. They show up with a chisel and a hammer.
Yeah.
They start banging on the walls, trying to break through, convinced the cheese must be hidden just behind it somewhere.
That's a perfect metaphor for trying to force the old reality back into existence, isn't it?
It really is. It's activity, not productivity. They're working harder, but in completely the wrong place, clinging to this desperate hope that the past can be resurrected if they just try hard enough.
And all the while, they're getting weaker. hungrier, more stressed out.
Physically and mentally drained, fear, frustration. It's taking its toll. And Ha is watching this, watching himself waste away and realizing this waiting game is literally killing them. Every day they stay put, their chances get slimmer.
So what's the turning point for Ha? What finally breaks him out of it?
It's such a great moment in the book. He starts laughing.
Laughing at what?
At himself, at the sheer ridiculousness of their situation. He suddenly sees how absurd it is, doing the same things over and over again and wondering why things don't get better.
That flash of self-awareness. Seeing the folly of it all.
Exactly. That self-deprecating humor, it's like it breaks the spell. The gravity of the fear just lifts for a moment. He can finally see their behavior, the arrogance, the slippers, the hammering on walls, not as justified, but as kind of silly.
And that allows him to finally let go.
It does. To truly accept that the old cheese at Station C is gone forever. That chapter's over. Time to move on. And the first step, finding those running shoes they tossed aside so long ago.
He declares, it's maze time.
Yeah, and he starts leaving that trail of wisdom on the walls, hoping Hem will eventually follow. And these lessons he writes, they're powerful because they're born from real struggle, real pain.
Okay, so lesson 1. What's the first piece of handwriting?
It's the stark reality check. If you do not change, you can become extinct.
Wow, blunt.
Very. It's the ultimate motivator, isn't it? Adapt or die. Staying put in a place that no longer supports you isn't safe, it's suicidal.
But leaving isn't easy, even after that realization. He feels the fear as he steps out.
Oh yeah, the anxiety is real. The dark corridors, the unfamiliarity. He even feels the pull back towards the smell of the empty station because it's known. It's familiar misery.
So how does he overcome that pull?
He asks himself that critical question, the one that acts like an override switch for fear.
Right, the big one.
What would you do if you weren't afraid?
That just cuts through everything, doesn't it? It forces you to imagine action without the emotional static.
Precisely. It acknowledges the fears there, but says, okay, set that aside for 1 second. Logically, what's the smart move?
And as he starts moving, tentatively at first, he begins to reflect on how they got into this mess, how blind they were.
He realizes all the signs were there back at Station C. The cheese supply was getting smaller, it was getting older, maybe a bit moldy, but they weren't paying attention. They were too busy feeling entitled and comfortable in their slippers.
Which leads to the lesson about staying alert.
Exactly. Lesson 3. Smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old. Constant vigilance. Active monitoring of your situation.
So in practical terms, that means checking if your skills are still relevant, watching industry trends, noticing the small frictions in a relationship before they blow up.
All of that. Looking for those early warning signs so change doesn't completely blindside you. Sniff and Scurry did it naturally. Hal had to learn it the hard way and write it down.
And even when he's lost, feeling weak, maybe taking wrong turns, he realizes just moving is better than staying put.
Yeah, he notes that sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards, but overall, there's progress, momentum.
And that becomes lesson 4.
Movement in a new direction helps you find new cheese. Just the act of moving shifts your focus. From mourning the old to seeking the new, it gives you back a sense of control, of agency. You're doing something, not just waiting.
And then something interesting happens psychologically, right? He starts to enjoy it.
He does. Even before finding substantial cheese, he realizes the exploration itself, the running, the adventure. It's actually kind of exhilarating. There's an intrinsic reward in just adapting and moving.
So lesson 5 is about that feeling.
When you move beyond your fear, you feel free. This is huge. It suggests the biggest payoff isn't even the new cheese itself, but the liberation you feel when you break free from your own fear-based limitations. Fear was the prison, and movement is the key.
But finding cheese in a huge maze is hard work.
Yeah.
He needs motivation to keep going, especially when he's tired and hungry.
Right. And this is where Ha uses that complex human brain constructively, unlike him. He uses the power of imagination. Visualization.
Okay.
He starts painting these really vivid mental pictures, seeing himself finding huge piles of new cheese, all different kinds, delicious, wonderful. He imagines himself enjoying it.
So he's making the future goal really appealing.
Exactly. Using that positive image to pull himself forward, it transforms the scary, dark maze into a landscape of exciting possibilities. That's lesson 6. Imagining myself enjoying new cheese even before I find it leads me to it. You build a mental bridge from fear to action by focusing on the potential reward.
Okay, so Ha's learned these lessons. He's moving, he's visualizing. Does his pace pick up?
It does. He starts finding little bits of new cheese here and there, crumbs, small pockets, enough to keep him going.
But he also realizes something important at those smaller finds, right?
Yeah, he realizes he wasn't the first one there. The best stuff was already gone. Someone else got there faster.
The mice, probably.
Very likely. Sniff and scurry. And this leads him to the lesson about speed, minimizing that delay.
Lesson 7.
The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese. He directly connects the time he wasted back at Station C, stuck in denial, anger, fear, to the missed opportunities along the way. Every day spent clinging to the past was a day he could have been finding something better.
That's a powerful realization about the cost of delay.
It really is.
Yeah.
Emotional baggage has a real-world price.
And then, finally, payoff time.
Yes. He follows a promising path and suddenly bursts into Cheese Station N, and it's amazing. The book says it's the greatest supply of cheese he had ever seen. Huge variety, fresh, abundant.
And guess who's already there, looking quite content?
Sniff and scurry, of course, with fat little bellies, the book says. They're thriving. They got there first because their method, instinct plus speed, is just the most efficient way to deal with constant change.
But Ha made it too. He took the scenic route, the painful route.
The educational route. He arrives not just with cheese, but with wisdom, self-awareness, an actual intellectual framework for managing change from now on.
And it's there, at Station N, surrounded by abundance, that he really reflects and puts it all together, the big takeaways.
Yeah, these final realizations are really the core wisdom of the parable. First, he gets it. The real enemy wasn't the change itself. It wasn't whoever moved the cheese.
It was internal.
It was his own fear. The fear he allowed to build up in his mind was way worse than the actual reality of searching the maze. His old thinking, clouded by entitlement and worry, that was the real barrier.
He also accepts that change isn't some random, unfair event. It's just the way things are.
It's natural, continuous. The world keeps spinning whether you're comfortable or not. The maze is always shifting.
And maybe the biggest mental shift. Old beliefs do not lead to new cheese.
That's fundamental. His success didn't ultimately depend on his cheese-finding skills. It depended on his willingness to drop the beliefs that were holding him back.
Like the belief in permanence or entitlement.
Exactly. The minute he changed what he believed, shifting from "I deserve stability" to "I can adapt and thrive," his actions changed automatically. Belief dictates behavior.
And looking back, he sees the whole crisis differently.
He sees it as a blessing in disguise, which sounds cliche, but it was true for him. Being forced out of Station C, as painful as it was,
led him to something much better.
Way better cheese, yes, but also a better version of himself. Stronger, wiser, less fearful, more alive, really.
So what's his resolution moving forward? How does he make sure he doesn't fall back into old habits?
He makes a conscious commitment. He vows to always smell the cheese, stay vigilant, monitor his situation, always keep exploring parts of the maze, even when he's comfortable, and crucially, never get isolated in a comfort zone again. No more complacency, no more being blindsided.
And because he still cares about his old friend, him, stuck back there in the dark, he summarizes everything he learned. The complete guide. The full handwriting on the wall.
Yeah, hoping Hem will find the trail and follow it. It's basically the 7 core principles for navigating change.
Okay, let's quickly run through those 7. This is the roadmap. Principle 1.
Change happens. They keep moving the cheese. Just accept it. It's the fundamental rule of the maze.
Principle 2. Anticipate change. Get ready for the cheese to move. Be proactive, not reactive. Look ahead.
Principle 3. Monitor change. Smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old. Constant check-ins. Stay aware of the details.
Principle 4. Adapt to change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy new cheese. Speed matters. Minimize resistance time.
Principle 5. Change. Move with the cheese. Take personal responsibility for adapting. Don't wait to be pushed.
Principle 6. Enjoy change. I savor the adventure and enjoy the taste of new cheese. This is the attitude shift. See it as an opportunity, not just a threat. Find the excitement.
And Principle 7, the reminder, it never ends. Be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again. They keep moving the cheese. Adaptation isn't a one-off project. It's a continuous process. The cycle repeats.
And the story itself wraps up with this class reunion scene. Michael, who learned the story at work, tells it to his old friends. And this is where you see the genius of the simple language, right?
Absolutely. Because immediately people start using it. It gives them this safe, non-judgmental way to talk about Really difficult stuff. Job losses, business failures, personal struggles.
Yeah, people start identifying themselves. Oh man, I was totally him.
Exactly. Carlos and Frank jump right in, admitting they resisted job changes. Carlos said he was angry, wanted to stay, didn't look around until it was basically too late. Classic him.
And Frank tells that story about his friend in the military. That's pure him delusion.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knew his department was shutting down. Everyone. But this guy just refused to believe it applied to him, dug his heels in, convinced his loyalty would save him.
And he was the only one shocked when they actually closed it.
Became extinct, essentially, because he refused to see the writing on the wall. Just like him.
Then there's Nathan, the guy with the family business. His story shows how a whole organization can act like him.
That's a fascinating point. His family ran this traditional retail store, right? And they just ignored the rise of the mega store competitor. They saw it coming, but they didn't change.
They had chances to adapt.
Yeah. Nathan says they could have sold off some of their old real estate, which was valuable, and used the money to build a modern store, compete head-on. But they didn't. They just hoped their old way, the neighborhood loyalty thing, would be enough.
So what was their old cheese they couldn't let go of? Was it just the store itself?
I think listening to Nathan, it was deeper than that. It was their identity as the old-fashioned neighborhood place, their pride in that history, their organizational ego, maybe. They felt they deserved to survive just by being who they always were.
They have entitlement, but at a company level.
Precisely. They clung to the narrative of their past success. And Nathan regrets it deeply. He realized it's always better to initiate change when you're strong, rather than being forced to react when you're already losing.
Michael, the one telling the story, shares how it changed his management style, too. He stopped just managing problems.
And he started doing what Hall learned to do in Lesson 6, visualization. But for his whole team.
How'd that work?
He realized his main job now was to paint a picture of new cheese, to make the future, the change they needed to make, seem appealing, positive, realistic, but exciting.
So lowering the fear barrier for everyone.
Exactly. Shifting the focus from the pain of loss, what we're giving up, to the potential gain. Look what we could find. That's leading change proactively.
Jessica's story about the encyclopedia business is another powerful one. Resisting technology.
Oh, yeah. They had this incredibly valuable asset, all that information, and the future was clearly digital, putting it on a computer disk, making it cheap and accessible.
But they wouldn't do it. Why not?
Because their old cheese was their entire business model. The huge, expensive sales force going door to door, selling those massive, pricey book sets, their infrastructure, their current profit stream, the jobs, that's what they were protecting.
The status quo, even though the market was leaving them behind.
They fell into the sunk cost trap. They couldn't let go of the old way, even as technology made it obsolete. They forgot that cheese has a shelf life. It gets old, it runs out. If you don't innovate, the world moves on without you.
And they lost everything to competitors who adapted faster.
Tragic, but a classic business case study.
The conversation then shifts to personal life, which is interesting. Richard, the skeptic, has this light bulb moment about his family situation.
Yeah, he's going through a separation, his kids are angry and resistant, and he suddenly realizes he's been acting like him towards them.
How so?
He admits he hasn't painted any kind of positive picture of the new cheese. What will the new family setup look like? What could be good about it? He just expected them to accept the loss without offering any hopeful vision for the future.
So Ha's visualization lesson applies just as much to family dynamics. You have to help people see a potentially positive outcome to ease their fear of change.
Absolutely, especially kids. Change needs to be framed with hope, not just endured as pain.
And then Elaine and Corey get into relationships. Can you find new cheese with the same person?
That's a great discussion. Is the old cheese the entire relationship that needs to end, or is it just the old behavior within the relationship that's stale and needs changing?
Angela makes the key point there. Right?
Yeah, she suggests that sometimes the new cheese is a revitalized relationship with the same person. But you achieve it by both partners letting go of their old, unhelpful, maybe hem-like behaviors, the stubbornness, the taking each other for granted.
So change doesn't always mean leaving the May station entirely. Sometimes it means radically renovating the station you're in.
Exactly, reinventing the dynamic, letting go of old patterns to find a new connection.
Finally, they circle back to the workplace impact. Michael's observation about culture.
Yeah, that line, a change imposed is a change opposed. That really resonates.
When change feels forced on people, especially from the top down, the natural reaction is fear and resistance, pushback.
But making the story common knowledge, having everyone read it, It subtly shifted the culture. It created this positive peer pressure
How?
because nobody wanted to be seen as him. Nobody wanted to be the one whining in the corner about fairness while everyone else was putting on their running shoes.
Ah, the fear of looking like him motivates people to act more like Haw or Scurry.
Precisely. It bypassed some of the usual defensiveness and gave people a shared, acceptable language to talk about resistance and the need for adaptation, even for self-critique.
So it actually saved the company time and reduced stress during transitions.
Significantly. And interestingly, even people whose jobs were eliminated said the story helped. Because they'd accepted the cheese had moved, they were already mentally out there looking for new cheese. They interviewed better, felt more proactive. Hashtag tag outro.
Looking back over all of this, what really strikes me is just how efficient Dr. Johnson was. He took these massive, complex human things, fear, denial, resistance, entitlement, and boiled them down. 4 characters, 2 simple words, cheese and maize.
Yeah, that simplicity is the magic, I think. It kind of disarms your ego. It lets you step back and, maybe even laugh at yourself a little bit. And realize that the biggest block to dealing with change, it's usually inside us. It's our own beliefs, our own resistance. Nothing really shifts externally until you change internally, until you change what you believe and then what you do.
The only thing worth holding on to maybe is that realization itself. Change is constant. Vigilance is required.
Permanent vigilance.
Yeah.
And remembering what Hall learned, it's actually safer to be out there in the maze, searching, moving, adapting.
Than staying stuck in a familiar place that's no longer working.
Exactly, that cheeseless comfort zone. It feels familiar, but it's actually the most dangerous place to be in the long run because it's starving you, physically or metaphorically.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final thought. Something to chew on, maybe. Connecting back to Haw's lesson about monitoring change.
Right. So the provocation is this. If you were to take a really honest look at your own maze, right now your job, maybe a key relationship, your health, your finances, whatever your important areas are, and if you were to really try and smell the cheese, what tiny changes might already be happening that you haven't fully noticed? What subtle signs are there that maybe the current cheese is getting a little old or the supply is shrinking even slightly?
And based on that, what new direction, what new cheese should you maybe start visualizing and preparing for right now, before you find yourself standing in an empty station wondering what happened?
Because remember the final looping lesson, they keep moving the cheese.